The autopsy's gonna say heart attack.
Excuse me.
What can I do for you?
Special crimes. I'm uncertain it was natural causes.
At first, it feels like a joke you're not supposed to laugh at. The kind that sits in your chest for a second too long before you realize something is seriously wrong. That's the exact feeling HBO's DTF St. Louis trailer leaves me with, and honestly, that discomfort is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Because this isn't just another dark comedy, it's a story that smiles at you while quietly setting up a death. Before we begin, would you please support me? Subscribing is free and very important to me. Please subscribe for better analysis and more videos. DTF St. Louis is a 7-episode limited series arriving on HBO on March 1st, and from the very first trailer, it makes one thing clear: this story is less about love and more about the mess people create when they're bored, lonely, and convinced they deserve more than they have. The show revolves around 3 middle-aged adults tangled in a relationship that spirals out of control and ultimately ends with one of them dead. And the fact that the trailer shows us that death right away is not an accident. David Harbour, Jason Bateman, and Linda Cardellini form the core triangle here, and it's immediately unsettling how normal everything feels at the start. These aren't criminals. They're not masterminds. They're just people dealing with the quiet dissatisfaction that creeps in when life doesn't turn out the way you imagined. Bateman plays Clark, a man who thinks he's smarter than his circumstances. Harbour's Floyd is his co-worker, a guy clearly searching for some spark to break the routine. And Cardellini's Carol is Floyd's wife, caught in the middle of something she didn't sign up for but slowly becomes part of anyway. The trailer introduces the DTF St. Louis APP as a supposed solution. Clark casually pitches it to Floyd as a way to add excitement to his life. What Floyd doesn't know is that Clark is already having an affair with Carol. That betrayal sits at the center of everything, and the show doesn't rush to justify it or soften it. It just lets it exist, quietly poisoning every interaction. Then Floyd dies. HBO's latest trailer doesn't hide this twist. In fact, it leans into it. We see Harbour's character collapse, and suddenly the tone shifts completely. What once felt like awkward humor turns into suspicion, guilt, and unanswered questions. The police are initially ready to chalk the death up to a heart attack, something clean and convenient that allows everyone to move on. But not everyone is convinced. Joy Sunday plays an investigator who starts digging deeper, and her presence changes the energy of the entire story. She doesn't accuse right away. She observes, she listens, and before long, Clark finds himself being questioned about his relationship with Floyd, forcing him to confront how much he actually has to lose. What I find interesting here is how the trailer balances humor and dread without letting either one overpower the other. We see scenes of the 3 adults dealing with everyday frustrations before the tragedy. Work stress, marriage fatigue, that quiet panic of realizing your life feels smaller than it used to. Those moments aren't played for cheap laughs. They're uncomfortable because they're recognizable. If you catch yourself nodding along during those scenes, that's probably the point. Jason Bateman brings his familiar controlled sarcasm, but there's something colder underneath it this time. This isn't the lovable mess we've seen in past roles. This feels calculated, defensive, and increasingly desperate. Harbour, on the other hand, brings a vulnerability to Floyd that makes his death land harder than expected. And Cardellini sits in the emotional crossfire, carrying a quiet weight that suggests Carol knows more than she's letting on. The supporting cast only deepens the intrigue. Richard Jenkins appears in a role that hints at moral authority but also emotional distance, while Joy Sunday's investigator feels like the only person in the room actually paying attention. Every scene she's in tightens the story a little more. DTF St. Louis was created by Stephen Conrad, and if you're familiar with his previous work, the tone makes sense. Conrad has always been drawn to flawed people navigating absurd situations with very real consequences. This series fits perfectly into that pattern. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's quietly cruel in the way it lets characters dig their own graves. The release schedule reinforces that slow burn approach. The series premieres on March 1, with new episodes airing weekly until April 12th. The finale is set to drop just before the premiere of Euphoria Season 3, which tells you exactly how much confidence HBO has in this show holding attention on its own. It will also stream on HBO Max alongside titles like A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Heated Rivalry, and Euphoria, placing it firmly in a lineup built around character-driven drama rather than spectacle. What makes DTF St. Louis stand out, at least from the trailer, is how openly it invites the audience to judge these characters. The show doesn't ask you to like them. It asks you to watch them make choices and sit with the fallout. And if you find yourself questioning who you sympathize with most, that's where the show starts to get interesting. Because at some point, the humor fades and all that's left is accountability. The trailer doesn't promise easy answers. It promises tension, suspicion, and the slow realization that sometimes the most dangerous thing in a room isn't a weapon, but a secret that's been waiting too long to surface. If you enjoy dark comedies that don't flinch when things get uncomfortable, this is one to keep an eye on. And if you're already wondering who's really responsible for Floyd's death, then the show is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I'll be watching how this unfolds week by week. And if you've stuck with me this far, you already know this story has more layers than it lets on. Until next time, keep questioning what looks harmless, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.